Chapter 4, Organizational Behavior, Social Systems and Social Systems and Organizational Culture. LOs. The operation, the operation of a social system, the psychological contract, social cultures and their impact, the value of cultural diversity, role and role conflict in organization, status and status symbols, organizational culture and its effects, full workplaces. Social system, complex set of interacting human relationships. Behavior of one member impacts the others. Uh, Open system engages engages in exchanges with its environment. So when you see how social system work, it's the people, how they're interacting with each other. An open system engages in exchanges with the environment. So you have with any and everybody in the environment. It's open. Social equilibrium, interdependent parts of a system that are dynamic and working balance. When parts work together against each other, disequilibrium occurs. So when you have people, disequilibrium occurs is when people are not working together. They're not working together for a common goal or working together for in a systematic way of getting things done. Functional and dysfunctional effects. Functional effects. When change is favorable for a system, employees are creative and seek to improve the quality of their service. This is when you have people who are working together and everything. I call it people pulling in the same direction and they understand what the mission is and they're working with each other, pulling in the same direction. Dysfunction is when change is unfavorable for the system. Employees are absent frequently and resistant to organizational changes. So you have dysfunction. Some of the times it can be any number of reasons why you have it, but when you do have it, you see things as such as people not working together, not pulling in the same direction, may not have the same goals, may have different agendas, or you may just have some people who are actually naturally personalities don't work. But when this happens, this is when people are disenfranchised with their work. They don't come to work. They lay out more, absentee is higher. And also when they come, they look, you might see something where people come to late work, they leaving early. The results of the psychological contract and economic contract. So when we look at this, actually, I'm going to pause this. I want you to read through this. And rather than me trying to elaborate through that because it's self-explanatory, pause right here and read through these. Psychological contract. Conditions of each employee's psychological involvement with the social system. To prevent breakdowns, employers should clarify employees' expectations, perceptions. Okay, make sure people understand what they're supposed to do, what to expect, what's realistic and what's not. Discuss mutual obligations. Who's got the obligations? You have mutual obligations, this group and that group. Make sure they understand that and what role they play. Exercise caution when conveying promises. Always be leery of promising things. Because if you do promise something, people will hold you to it. If you do not fulfill that promise, it has damaged your credibility. Provide detailed expectations for unfulfilled promises. So if you do fall short on a promise, now you got to explain why it happened. My advice is do not promise, but tell people this is what you believe. It's kind of like your hypothesis, an educated guess. I believe that we could possibly do this, but do not promise. Alert employees to the realistic expectations of the reneging. So let people know what's our expectations if you don't renege and backing out, not doing something. What are the consequences of those actions? Exchange theory. When a continuing relationship exists between two parties, each person regularly examines the rewards and costs of the interaction. To remain positive about the relationship, both parties must believe in the existence of a net positive ratio. So when you look at that, something must be mutually beneficial to both folks if they're going to exchange. I'm doing something, you're doing something. Each person regularly examines the rewards and the cost. Am I getting a reward and you getting one too? Or is it only you getting a reward? Social culture, environment of human created beliefs, customs, knowledge, and practices, essential for all roles in the organization. So you must have this when you have, what your social culture is, the environment where people believe. It's all based on people. Remember, social. This is all based on people. You know, what type of customs you have, what's the beliefs, what's your practices, what's the knowledge. It's all people related. So for people who build good teams, this is something that they take in consideration. Essential for all roles in the organization. Managers to understand the backgrounds and beliefs of the employees. You got to understand the backgrounds and beliefs of employees. One of the reasons, if you don't understand the background of your people, you may find yourself doing things like playing to their weaknesses and versus their strengths. I know my team, I know their strengths, I know their weaknesses, I know how to lead based on that. I'm not going to give somebody who's weak on something a task to do when I know I have somebody stronger that can do it. Employees to capitalize on opportunities it presents and avoid negative consequences. Employees got to do their part too. Work with the managers to capitalize on opportunities when they present and try to avoid negative consequences by being proactive about things that they think may not be a good idea or may not be a good fit or whatever. One culture dependency may create intellectual blinders. So when you have everybody's like one culture, everyone one mindset, a group, I call it that one group game theory, a mindset, then it creates intellectual bias. Basically means you all gonna miss the same things. Here's what happens if you have this, you don't have that problem. Cultural diversity, rich variety of differences among people at work. Formation of groups is determined by job-related conditions, non-job related conditions. So when you look at the groups, so what type of people are you bringing in based upon the types of jobs that you're going to be doing? And so the non-job related conditions, such as I look at as personalities. Discrimination based or unfair action, prejudice, bias, attitude of feeling. The law focuses on actions and not feelings. So when it comes to these types of things, you see them periodically. I'm going to refer to them as isms. When you see isms in the workplace, these things can cause problems. Now, again, it ain't against the law to be a knucklehead. It is against the law once you to think something. It's when you start doing. And that's when people get in trouble. Valuing diversity. So recognizing, acknowledging, appreciating, using cultural differences to collective advantage requires inclusion, active desire to use diverse talents and strengths, cultural competence, skill needed to accomplish the inclusion. So when you're looking at valuing this, like, hey, everybody, it actually is when you have diverse people in your group, they have different strengths and they have different weaknesses. But capitalize on those things that actually allow you to work to their talents and their strengths. And cultural competency means you need to understand, do these people have the skill to accomplish a certain task, to include them on? Work ethic. Viewing work as a very important and desirable goal in life. Employees with strong work ethics like work and derive satisfaction from it, have stronger commitment to the organization and goals. Varies in group depending on the personal background, type of work, and geographical location. So when you look at the work ethic is usually there when things are going well. You have, I say, good people doing the right job, the right people doing the right job in the right environment for them to thrive in. They have a stronger commitment to the organization and its goals. They often think in terms of we and not me. And when you look at the group, depending on the personal background, look at the background, type of work, and geographical location. And you may find that, that may determine is one reason why I took a job that I used to have in Mexico, and we moved that job and we moved it to India. We found out that is something about geographical location. Folks in India seem to do better with this particular job. Folks in Mexico seem to do better with this job. The U.S. or vice versa. Work ethic declined over the decades due to differences in attitudes among younger employees. Emergence of competing social values, leisure ethic, desire for community and connectedness, entitlement, social policy, and tax law changes. So when you look at the work ethic, there are so many different things that can affect that. But one of the things that I can tell you that happens, and it shows up quite a bit, is difference in attitudes of younger employees, meaning they may not have the necessary commitment or work ethic that older people had to the organization because they don't share the same values. Their social values are different. The things that they find is important to them were not important to people who worked there 20 years ago. So you have some folks who have been there for 20 years and some people just getting started. This is where you can see some things where the work ethic You have some work to do. Social responsibility. Recognition that organizations have significant influence on a nation's social system. Influence must be properly considered and balanced in all organizations. Leads organizations to adopt a broader view of their role within a social system. Accept the interdependence with the social system. So when you look at social responsibility, you have recognition that organizations have significant influence on the nation's social system. Organizations, here's one thing about it. Organizations are part of the community. They're not separate. They are part of the community, and subsequently, the things that they say and do and how they conduct their business and whatever, it affects the community. Influence must be properly considered and balanced for all actions. So everything they take, for instance, are you getting ready to do something that's going to make you a lot of money and it's going to give the community a lot of jobs, but it's also going to poison the community water. You have to take into consideration a broader sense when it comes to that. Role. Pattern of actions expected of a person and activities involving others reflects a person's position in a social system. So what role does a person play in this system? A lot of times you may find that you look at it, and every time you see a social system, you're going to find people who do fall in roles. Who's a leader? Who's a facilitator? Who's a follower? You want to know that. Role perceptions. How is one to act in his or her own roles and how others should act in their roles? Role flexibility, ability to adapt to many different roles. So what you'll find is when you find a good situation where you have roles and stuff, you can find that they have role flexibility. You don't have the same leader all the time. You don't have the same follower all the time. You don't have the same facilitator. They've been flexible. And a lot of times because they have a good working relationship, they can do that. And that's in a functional group, not a dysfunctional group. Each employee performs many roles. So I'm going to pause. You should pause right here and read through that. The complex web of managing employee role perceptions. So let's look at here. We see manager's perception of own role, A. We see manager's perception of employee's role, B. You see employee's perception of manager's role, C. Employee's perception of own role, D. So all of this is important. Do we have proper perceptions of each other's roles? If you don't have alignment. If you don't have alignment, something is not going to work as efficient as it should. Mentors. Role models who guide other employees by sharing valuable advice on roles to play and behaviors to avoid. So this is kind of like having a parent at work. Someone who's senior, who has more experience than you, who's actually going to take you under their wing. Advantage of mentoring programs: stronger employee loyalty, faster move up the learning curve, succession planning through development of replacements. So getting to know people, having somebody take you under the wing and helping you get stronger and learn stuff, you move up faster, you learn quick, and you are also in a position to get promoted faster. Mentors increase the level of goal accomplishments. Objective analysis of a protege's strengths and weaknesses. So your mentor is somebody going to be there to help you with the goals, having you writing, coming up with your own professional goals, not necessarily the organization's goals or the group's goals, your job, but your goals and stuff, and helping you to determine how to work on your strengths and weaknesses so you can accomplish those goals. Drawbacks: assigning mentors could lead to resentment, abuse of power, unwillingness to serve. The one that shows up the most from what I see is the unwillingness to serve. And that means you have somebody who's a mentor and they're on paper, in reality they're not. They don't show up for the person, very little involvement, they don't give them much input, and they're not really trying to help them, for whatever reason it may be. Abuse of power, I've not seen that much, but it can happen where you have somebody who's a mentor and they basically say, okay, you're my little gopher and you're going to do anything I need you to do, whatever else, do what I say, and go get my clothes from the cleaners, types of things. And resentment. You have some people that may just have some general resentment to even being a mentor, and therefore they don't want to do it. So guess what? They're not going to do a good job. Mentors having more than one mentor per protege helps in situations where some mentors are more effective role models than others. Mentors' advice might hinder the protege's development. So this is where you say, you know what? If one mentor is not providing everything that the protege needs, the other is there to help. Mentors. Gender differences in mentor-protege relationship leads to complex issues. Mentor is transfer or leads organization. So you have differences. Sometimes if you have a male mentor and a female protege, sometimes that can lead to issues. A lot of times people like to see a male with a male, female with a female to help them, because you want these mentors, you want them to bond. You want them to be able to share things or whatever else. And sometimes it's easier for somebody to do that when they're the same gender. Or, here's a situation too. If a mentor is transferred to leaves organization, and let's say that you had a mentor and they were a good mentor for you, and then they leave, and it's like, wow. Now you're like, okay, what do I do now? Now you get another mentor, and then maybe you don't have the chemistry with that person like you did the first. Reverse mentoring. New employees are more proficient in certain domains and demonstrate their skills to senior level. So what we find a lot of times with reverse mentoring is, my experience I've seen a lot of times, this comes like with tech type stuff, being tech savvy. A lot of times you find people in younger generations are more tech savvy than people in older generations. And so they can actually help with some of the things along those lines, or help someone who is a senior position to understand the perception and perspective of people who are younger, who are now coming into the organization. Tips for a protege using mentors. Pause right here and read through those. Tips for mentors who have proteges. Pause and read through. Role conflict and ambiguity. Role conflict. Experience when others have different perceptions or expectations of one's role. Result in work-life conflict. So when you see this, this is where you don't have alignment and you don't have balance. What either managers just say, either manager believes somebody should be doing, they don't understand that that's what they should be doing. And that creates a conflict. And it can result in work-life balance. So now I've got them working extra hours to try to get things done. So they're working long days and on the weekends and all this other stuff, which actually comes to work-life balance or work-life conflict. Role ambiguity exists when roles are inadequately defined or substantially unknown. Employees are more satisfied. So when you have this is when somebody's like, they don't really understand what their role is. And let's say that they're a good worker and they work hard and whatever else, but they don't really know what their role is because it hasn't been defined. So they're doing the best they can. This may work or it may not work. Employees are more satisfied when their roles are clearly defined by job descriptions and statements of performance expectations. When people know what their job is and what's expected of them and what they're expected to do, this is when you're going to have more job satisfaction. Role and this ambiguity is something that can actually be a deflate and actually destroy someone's morale. Status systems. Ranks are assigned in relation to others in the group. So you see status anxiety, getting highly upset over one's own status. Status deprivation, loss of status relationships provides a system by which people can relate to one another in an organization. Status symbols, visible external things that attach to a person or a workplace when they serve as evidence of a social rank. So when you see people-driven, this is all people-driven, and how people think and feel about where they are with status. And trust me, that can be, these kind of things can actually come in and cripple your organization if you're not careful, if you're not get on top of these type of all these different areas of status, because it's all very important. Typical symbols of status. Pause and read through these. Major sources of status on the job. So when we look at these major sources of status on the job, you see method of pay, age, seniority, pay, occupation, job skill, abilities, job level, education, working conditions, all comes into status. And again, all related to people. It's about how people feel and think. Significance of status. Status obsession is a source for employee problems and conflict. If you have somebody who's really obsessed with the status thing, it can be a source. Because let me tell you, if my focus is not to do a good job, but my focus is to gain status, and Think about that for a minute. That's a problem, and that will cause conflict. Influences that influences the kind of transfers and job assignments employees prefer. So you can find somebody and say, you know what, I wanted to, and I've known people who've taken jobs because they felt like it got them more status, and not necessarily just status, but it also made them more visible. But it was a calculated move. Helps determine informal leaders. So when you look sometimes at groups and stuff, when so you have some people, they're leaders, but they're not managers. Why? It's because they're informal leaders, and there's something about them that people would have a tendency to follow them and listen to them. Significance status motivates those seeking to advance in the organization. So, there are some people who seek it, and, bottom line, and don't get me wrong, that's not a negative thing. It's their aspirations. They're seeking status because they're trying to. Like one lady told me, I'm trying to make two promotions within the next 3 years, and she knew what they was. She knew why she wanted to make them. Status seekers are encouraged to qualify themselves for high status jobs. They are often encouraged to always seek to better yourself. This is done by mentors. This is done by coaches. This is done by people who know them. Always seek to try to, don't get complacent if you're actually seeking the status. Status seekers desire high status jobs regardless of other working conditions. They're looking for something, what gives me the status that I would like to have? I feel that I'm better than this job. Organizational culture, set of assumptions, beliefs, values, and norms shared by an organization's members. So it provides an organization identity employees, source of stability and continuity, provides context for new employees, helps stimulate employee enthusiasm for work, attracts attention, and conveys a vision, identifies and rewards high producing and creative individuals. So when you see the culture has so many different aspects. And there's a thing such as having a healthy culture where these things are working and you have people who are healthy and productive and good team members and they have a good outlook on it and they're being rewarded. And then you have a toxic culture where none of this has happened. And one of the things I can tell you is when that happens it's polar opposite of everything you see right here would be a toxic environment, culture. Characteristics of organizational culture. So distinctive, stable, implicit, symbol, no one type is best. Integrated, accepted, and reflective of top management, subcultures of varying strength. So you can see this is something, the characteristics of I'm going to say a healthy organizational culture. Products of successful cultures. Better cooperation. You have better cooperation amongst not only people within a group, but among other groups. Acceptance of decision making and control. People understand what it is they're supposed to do, and they make their decisions. They accept their responsibility. They make their decisions, and they're willing to control and take accountability. More effective communication. They have effective two-way communication that's going from a sender to receiver and coming back to the sender. Higher commitment to the employer. These people really view their employer as somebody that takes care of them. Subsequently, they seek to take care of the employer. So communicating and changing culture. Channels of communication, formal, informal, and unintentional. You have formal channels that comes through the organization. You have informal that's coming through from within the people themselves. And then you have unintentional stuff that transpires, whether it be formal or informal, that nobody intended to happen, but it did. Organizational socialization, continuous process of transmitting key elements of an organization's culture to employees. How do you continue to get these employees to transmit your culture to folks? Remember, employees come and go. So when you establish this culture, you got to find a way to keep it going with particularly when you have new people coming in, new blood coming in, as well as with the ones who are going out. Keep them on the same sheet of music. They don't get complacent. Signature experiences. Convey a key element of the firm's culture and vividly reinforce its values. Clearly defined dramatic devices. So you're going to make sure that everything is clearly defined and they understand it and find ways to reinforce this. And if things are clear, they're clearly defined, meaning most likely usually written stated and practiced. So communicating, changing culture. Storytelling, a way to forge a culture and build organization identity. Effectively taps into the emotions of an audience and creates shared meaning and purpose. Key means for achieving socialization. Storytelling is invaluable. People like stories. And if you can use stories to help build a culture and change a culture, by all means do them. And I'm gonna tell you the best types of stories if they're personal stories, or if it's a story that ties to this organization or somebody that people know. Individualization. Employees exert influence on the social system by deviating from the culture. So when this happens, this person is no longer thinking about we in the organization, he's thinking about me. And you can see where the problem comes in. Counterculture, subculture of individuals within a larger group. So subculture, and I'm gonna give you another word for this, because you'll hear it at some point in your career, cliques. These are a subgroup. Let's say you got 15 people that work for you. And of those 15 people, 4 of them have some type of tie. They went to the same university or they grew up in the same community, and they develop a little subgroup. So now you got 11 people who are really part of the team, and these 4 who've made their own little group. And sometimes they have different agendas and they do things different. But if you're not careful, then that can be divisive, because they can still get to the point where they start having their own objectives and goals and not that of the group. 4 combinations of socialization and individualization. So we have high. So you see conformity, creative individual, rebellion, isolation. So you see socialization impact of organizational culture on the employee. So conformity is high, isolation is low, rebellion is high. And you see this, you look at this. This is, as you think about these, and I'm trying to think, the one that actually shows up that is really, really problematic is the rebellion. Because now you have somebody who's actually rebelling against the system, the culture, or either the manager or the group. So what we're really looking for is a conformity and creative individualism. Isolation and rebellion, those are low. Effectiveness of methods for changing organizational culture. So as we look at what's most effective and least effective. So we look at when it comes to changing culture, appoint a manager of the culture, you see that's going to be the low. Now you see the ones in between, all the way up to communicate top management support, very high. You have to understand these types of things and stuff we look at. You say next to that's train employees. So all these things taken into consideration. And look, even the one that appoint a manager of culture is small, but it's still a minimal improvement. And we're looking at how do you get up to the big improvements. Fun work environment. Organizational culture in which supervisors encourage, initiate, and support a variety of playful and humorous activities. Key features: easy to recognize, varies from person to person, easy to create, elicits many personal and organizational payoffs. So you see these things right here. And I can give you an example. When I was working, we went and did a safe house. And and it was like when you go in there to this house and stuff, I'm sorry, it's not safe houses. Can't think of the name right now, but it's where you go in, you get these tips and clues and stuff, and you try to find your way out of it. It was team building stuff. Very good stuff like that, where you bring in and you do stuff like that for your employees. Work doesn't have to be tedious and dreadful. It can be fun, at times and stuff, and the manager should take advantage of that. So, recognizing personal milestones through unique methods, hosting special social events, celebrating professional achievements, games and friendly competitions, entertainment, use of humor and correspondence. Some of this stuff doesn't take any effort, just to do little stuff. You can just little stuff, but you oftentimes find managers who don't think this way. And that's usually a manager or management type of deal that has to promote these. It can't be done by the employees. But when employees taking part in these things, they enjoy them. And this is something that can be beneficial in helping you keep people and retain them. Fun work environment. Employees benefits. Decreases stress, reduces boredom, stimulates friendships, increases satisfaction, produces beneficial psychological results. Corporate benefits, raising employee enthusiasm and creativity, attracting and retaining employees easier, company's values and norms become clearer, energize employee, improve customer satisfaction. When you can do this. And even as much as I say that, there's amazing how many organizations that don't. This slide right here are guidelines for oriented managers. Read through it, it's self-explanatory. Pause and read through it. And that concludes this chapter.